Welcome to our group meeting for container security. We don't have a ton today. There are a couple little demos that you can take a look at. Looks like, well, that one says read only. I'll read it anyway. The group level security policies feature flag is up on staging, and Alan recorded a small demo of how to use the GraphQL API with group level security policies. So we've got some good videos coming out. All of that's behind a feature flag, but if you're able to turn on the feature flag, you can actually start using that today on the back end if you're anxious for that feature. So yeah, the only other topic we have for today, oh good, Neil, you're on, is the carryover from our one-on-one. We were looking through our priorities issue and realizing that we don't have a great way to see how big those are right now at a glance. And that would actually help a lot on my end with prioritization, just because, you know, I make my best guess as I go through those, but really prioritization is somewhat of an ROI estimation, right? How much is it going to benefit, provide value to the users and our customers versus how much is it going to cost us to build. There are some other considerations that go into, like, you know, doing one thing may be a prerequisite for another thing, or, you know, there can be some strategic things that factor in, but mostly that sort of an ROI calculation is what's going on in the back of my mind. But I don't want this to be a huge level of effort, because we already go through and refine everything in great detail. And it would be a lot of work to go refine everything this early on when we haven't even figured out all of the details. So I just wanted to open it up for discussion and see what your thoughts are. How can we do this without making it a huge effort? Is it worth doing at all?
So we have that spreadsheet that we've used in the past for doing t-shirt sizes. It also gives us a sort of consistent result, I guess, or arguably consistent. And maybe it's something that you and I can help. I mean, we'll probably still need to consult with the engineers, but might help the team if we can do it. Let me see if I can dig it up.
So yeah, I mean, we don't have to. I'm very cautious of, you know, making this too analytical, because our inputs are going to be just rough estimations anyway. And, you know, there's definitely a risk of putting too much confidence in those estimations or making big decisions off of them when they really are just estimations. But if we have an easy way to get rough t-shirt sizes, I think that would be really nice. Part of this came out of an epic that Alexander refined, and it came out that the size was a lot larger than I originally expected it to be. And so as a result, I moved it down on the priority list because it was a lot more work to get done, you know, so we might adjust priorities based off of this if we had good t-shirt sizes.
Here.
Oh, aren't t-shirt sizes basically like the same as a weight? So we kind of could use that. The thing is that you can't add weights to epics, and you know, epics are usually so big that I feel like you can't really estimate the size of them.
Yeah, this is what we used before. It helps think about it. It's not super precise, but for what it is, it should land us on the answer that Sam needs to prioritize. So given the rows are the projects or the initiatives, and then you break up the effort into three things, like how well defined it is, the effort that you think that will take, and the complexity. And then through the magic of spreadsheets, these choices get get calculated into a number that you can look at and go, all right, cool, this is medium or small or large. And yeah, epics don't have a weight, but we can use that priorities issue to put that number in there and say estimated effort. And I think if we do that, we should agree that, you know, that is for the purpose of the prioritization only. That way, that will need to be refined once we do, right? So we know better when we actually doing the thing. What do you think of this? Let me share. Let me put it on the.
Yep. Interestingly, I shared a very similar sheet. I didn't realize Protect was using this. So Todd, it was like a year at least ago. We went through a same exercise, very similar sheet. I don't know when this occurred or if it's a regular cadence, but we did this across all the analyzer groups and had front end and back end, and then ended up with that calculation. We had that same, like that second tab was the calculated value based on the combination. It was extremely effective in terms of understanding where we're at, like what's coming up. I know product immediately started rethinking some of their priorities or urgencies based on some of the estimates we were getting out of that. And that was data we didn't have before. I don't remember where the SML actually come from. Like logically, when you're looking at a problem, how does your mind go to one of those letters? I forget.
The small, medium, or large?
Yeah. Is there like a relative, like 2 weeks, 1 milestone, 3 milestones? I just don't remember. That was too long ago.
I don't remember either. But it is like, it is meant to spit out a point output that then you can throw that against your team velocity. Now, it comes with caveats, right? Because different teams will have different velocities, and even between front end and back end, we might be calculating velocity different, which is why I would favor us, you know, being consistent in there. So it's already prone to error, and there are other things that will exacerbate that problem. But yeah, it's meant to be a velocity.
So some more backstory to our conversation is, with Alexander being the only front end, it's hard to look at the front end list of items and really anticipate how far down like row 4 would be. You know, 1 and 2 are clear. We've already been thinking about those, but then the 4s and the 5s in that list, not real certain when we're actually going to get to accomplish those. You know, that's at the mercy of how big stuff in the middle is, how big that stuff is, how much back end is actually anticipated, which is Sam's point. I think the analysis Alexander did surfaced that there's actually more back end than we realized. And so that was additional information that was informative.
Mm. The input is the letters, right? We don't have the SML as an output of that spreadsheet. We could come up with a range that says, all right, up to 10 is small, 10 to 20, medium, 20 and above is large, and then we throw that on the priorities issue. But should we keep separate the front end effort and the back end effort?
I think so.
Communicate
that was really valuable. Can you? You don't need to share again, but the DEC, that D for definition was really crucial as part of the conversation goes. Because like the less something's defined, the more inflated the estimate's going to be. There's way more variability or variance that we need to anticipate. When something's defined as being small, there's not a lot of give. You're going to see a lot less fluctuation in the weights, where you can see in the sheet the defined column is largely dry. Well, I guess they're all probably weighted similarly, but that defined has a huge influence the less defined something is. So I think that's where I was getting at too, is like the less we understand something, the more we're gonna just inflate things or just not know anything.
Yeah, and that's a little bit tricky because, you know, how much time do we spend like how much time do we want to spend on this effort, right? And its potential. I think we run the risk of that defined one messing with our actual numbers because, just a topic that we may have discussed more is likely to show up as better defined, whereas something else, we could talk about it just a little bit more and then it would be well defined, but in absence of question, it's not. And anyway, so it gets tricky. How do you think fairly, right?
Yeah, I think you don't. If you don't like what you see there and you think it helps as a start of a conversation. If somebody gets a result that they're not expecting, you can dig down into, okay, looks like it's large for well-defined. Let's have a conversation. Maybe we can take that down to a better defined thing, and that'll help with the estimation. But to try and find the balance, I would, like, if I'm doing this, I'll go with what I know, and then publish the results, and then wait to be asked to say, hey, can we have a better look at this? Say, sure, let's. Because otherwise, if you're trying to ask too many questions and go around, you kind of starting doing the work already, and it
right.
defeats the purpose of having something quick. Neil, the spreadsheet on the second tab has a link to the deck scoring document. It has words of wisdom about how these things are defined and calculated. So the range goes from 1 all the way to 34. So it's not a horrible definition. 10 and below, 11 to 20, 20, 21 and above.
All right, well, it sounds like we want to do this. Maybe I'll drop, how do we want to do this? Do we want to do this async? Should I drop a 30-minute meeting on our calendar between myself and the team managers, or?
I'm happy to do async. If we think we're gonna go back and forth too many times, we can do the first one synchronously, but I was going to volunteer to create a spreadsheet with all the items in our priorities issue. And then Neil and I can come in on the respective areas, populate them. And the engineers, if they're interested, they can come and have a look. It'll be open to everyone. But yeah, my first idea was try to avoid distracting the engineers with this work. It's kind of early. It doesn't necessarily need to bring them in at that point.
Yeah,
I think Brian likes it.
That is the big risk of this, right? Is that it becomes a time sink, or we don't want to spend too much time on this, because unless we're going through a full refinement, these are just lightweight estimations, and we have to take the output with a grain of salt just as much as
that's it.
Have a grain of salt going into the input, right?
Pretty much.
So what if we just created this really high level?
I think it's like there's some things that are easy to estimate where like it might be well understood how to implement the feature, but there's a lot of things where we might have no idea, and it's like, oh, if we have no idea, just assume it's large, I guess. I don't know, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of epics where the case is we have no idea how big the epic's going to be.
I thought you were in a laundry, but now I realize it's some sort of funky cafe or bar.
It's a coffee shop with a bunch of funky art on the wall.
Yeah.
Those bags behind you.
Coffee beans, of course.
Coffee? Yeah. Well, I don't know.
It's his laundry.
Bags of coffee beans.
We have a burger place, Five Guys, that has bags of potatoes in their hallway. It's kind of gross, honestly. Like, are we eating those exact potatoes? Why are we walking right by them? I was gonna one last thought. I was gonna say, if we want to keep this really high level, and Brian, you touched on this. Oh my God. So, I earlier I threw out if we just had a range, like within a milestone, 1 to 2 milestones, and more than 2 milestones, that's SML. And we just
Yeah.
keep it that. And like Ryan said, if we're just not even sure, we default to L. And we have XL to play with too.
Yeah, I think it's kind of risky putting milestones, because if I say small or medium, people might have different ideas of what that could mean in terms of milestones. But when you start putting milestones in that priorities issue, it kind of, I think it's easier to take that at face value and start creating an expectation. Not everybody that sees that issue is in the inner circle of our team and knows that it should be taken lightly. And hey, if we say 1 milestone might actually be 2, if we say 5, it could actually be 3. I'm happy to try, but I would be careful and keep an eye out to mismatch the expectations. Just because I've seen it before, right? I've seen people look at the due date in the epic and ask us, hey, this is not ready yet. When is it coming? And then we have to explain, actually, we completely ignore that. It's just inherited from the parent and we didn't even look at it. Oh, right.
Yeah, the other thing is that we might not really know how many engineers are going to be working on the epic. Like a lot, like issues go on the board and people grab whatever they want. And so sometimes there might be 2 or 3 engineers working on one epic. Sometimes there might be just be one, you know. So
good point.
we don't really assign people to work on epics, right? People just work on what they want to work on. So you can't tell beforehand how many people are going to be on it.
No, that's a good point. When you think of the number of milestones, you might be considering a full team, and people could be on leave, they could be on loan. Who knows, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Maybe keep the idea in our back pocket.
Yeah. So for issues, we do relative sizing against previous completed issues, right? We have an idea. I don't know if we have enough data to do that at a project at an epic level, but that could be another idea. Does this feel like the project A, project B type of thing? And we have some sort of reference list of projects that have a t-shirt size. And then it's more about the complexity.
It's a little bit hard to go back retroactively because now that we've done it, that we talked about that, defined aspect, the defined aspect changes once you've actually completed it. So I think it might be better just to track it going forward and say, oh, we estimated this at an Excel and this is what it came out as.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we can always go back to the spreadsheet because we do delete the rows from the issue as we complete them, so we wouldn't have that the history. Tell you what, I'm happy to create a blank spreadsheet. Do you want all the items, Sam, or should we limit to like the top 5 in each category?
Like we could limit it to the top, maybe the top 8.
Top 8.
I'm thinking.
We have a lot.
Small and we're going through them pretty fast.
Yeah, it is quick. You're right. Yeah. No, you're right. Last time I did this, it didn't take long. You spend about a minute on each row, so you could nail down 20 of those in a 30-minute block easily.
Okay, well, sounds like you're willing to take the first pass at this, Tiago. Let's have you work on that.
Yeah.
Async and Neil async, and let's see where it lands. Hopefully it doesn't take too much time. See if we're getting value out of it. If not, we can always not do it going forward.
Cool. I added something now to the agenda. It's on the same topic, since we're going to modify the priorities issue to have the size estimate. In threatening sites, we had 2 priority tables, and it was kind of confusing having 2 priorities. out of the two top ones, which one is the top. In container security is not as bad because you took the effort, Sam, of putting the number of engineers, so it helps with that. But I'm wondering if we could give that a go, if what it would look like if we actually unified that and make one larger table.
Yeah, we could. I can definitely see where that would be easier from an engineering perspective. Just as a reminder, the reason we split it out in the first place was because this goes all the way back like a year or more to when we changed from defend to protect. And Scott said, I want 50% on security orchestration.
That's right.
25 to 50% on container scanning, and I want 0 to 25 on container host security, right? Well, we're getting rid of host security. Scott's not with GitLab anymore.
That's right.
Since then. So I think we could reevaluate that.
The other reason, Sam, that Neil brought up, I thought it was good, is that Alexander stays like isolated in there, and sometimes front-ended is needed in these other initiatives, and it's hard to balance, So it creates that problem. Okay, is Alexander's top priority the same as security orchestration's top priority?
Yeah, so for Alexander, we actually created that front end table at the bottom, which basically is a mesh of everything.
Summarized version.
For him, because he's just one engineer. So there's no need to like split it out. I mean, he has to help with everything, right? So that really was the intent of that table at the bottom, was so that Alexander had one place to go to with everything on it. But if it's causing problems for you on the back end, or if you would rather combine it, I'm certainly happy to do that. Selfishly, it's a little bit easier for me to prioritize inside of a category because it's a lot easier to compare, security orchestration features to each other, whereas comparing the value of a security orchestration feature to container scanning feature, it's a little bit harder. But I'm willing to do that comparison if we need to. It's
what about if we kept the security approvals separate, because that one is a one-man band anyway. Right, it's completely isolated. For the other categories in Alexander, if we're gonna add t-shirt size estimates to the rows anyway, I don't quite know how that would work if we have separate, right? Do we not put the estimate on Alexander's, or only put in the front end table and don't put it on the other tables? I'm easy. It was a suggestion.
We have just one unified one altogether, and now you have to parse through and figure out which is front end, back end. In the past, we had the front end table so that Alexander had just one place to go. But do we have a back end table, a Zamir table, and a front end table? Do we have just one table? So again, I'm not too picky. I would say the way it is now is the most convenient for me, but I'm not the only person to be served by this. And if it would be easier for you to do it differently, I'm open to that.
What if I put it in a comment and tag everyone to have a look, and then basically, we have a bit of a vote, and if it's a little bit less convenient for you, Sam, but more convenient to more people, then you take one for the team.
Yeah, that's okay.
Cool.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll open up a poll on the issue, and
let me create the comment.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
So I'll do these two things. Let me see if I have time to do it today. Yeah, I can do it today. So later today, I'll tag people with the results.
Sounds good. All right. Is there anything else to discuss? We are right on time.
Incredible.
25-minute meeting. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great week.
Good job. Bye.